Hi, I'm Auntie Dawn. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm making bulgur. Bulgur has become one of my favorite carbs. It's wheat that's been parboiled and cracked, so it's much quicker cooking than whole wheats like faro. Here, let me show you the difference. So this is whole wheat. Whole wheat. I keep this around to sprout cat grass for my cats. So it's got all of the germ and the bran still on. You can see how each one is individual and still well formed and intact. This is faro. It looks nearly the same. It still has most of the germ and the bran intact and takes a long time to cook. This is bulgur. So it's been slightly cooked and broken up. I'm going to start by bringing 1 3/4 cup of water up to a boil in my electric kettle. I almost always go by the recipe on the bag, but in this case I found that using a full 2 cups of water like the bag called for gave me a pretty soggy bulgur. So just under 1 3/4 cups. I'm going to use a small pan. You can start the water on the stove top, of course, but it just lets me use a little bit more electricity rather than gas for cooking, so I can keep the vent fan off a little bit longer. Now that the water's coming up to a boil, I am going to turn the vent fan on, turn the heat on under the pan to start getting it warmed up, and add my boiling water. Now I'm going to add about a teaspoon of salt. I'm using bouillon concentrate. I'm going to let this come up to a boil. You see, I'm not trying to get the bouillon concentrate dissolved completely in the water. I want there to be a little differentiation of some concentrated spots because it's going to help the bulgur develop more interesting texture and flavor. Okay, now that the water has come to a boil, I'm going to pour in my bulgur. And swirl to get it distributed. I'm not stirring yet. So I'm going to put this on medium heat and wait just a minute till it comes up to a boil. You can see the boiling start to happen at the edges. And now I'm going to leave this for a minute until the bulgur starts to swell up. While this happens, I'm going to reduce the heat. Because I'm using a gas stove, turning down the heat concentrates the heat toward the center of the pan, which is where I want it. I want bubbles coming up toward the center of the pan rather than the outside where you see it currently is. So as I turn the heat down, more and more of the bubbles come up toward the middle, which is of course where a lot of the bulgur is and will help with even cooking. If I let the heat be all around the edges of the pan, the bulgur is more likely to get browned and stick to the pan, which means that we don't get to eat that because I've got a pretty rapid boil here, so I'm going to turn it down the rest of the way. Yes, and this is how I want it. I want little bubbles coming up occasionally rather than the heat just all coming out right away. Okay, now it's been nearly 20 minutes. You can see all the bulgur has risen beyond the water, so I'm going to go ahead and check and see as soon as I start to cook into it, there is still water. So I'm going to cover that up and distract myself yet again. Okay, this pot of bulgur has been cooking for 40 minutes now. And you can see when I put the spoon in and move it aside, there's no water on the bottom. And the grains are fluffy and come apart when I stir. So it is now done. I'm going to turn the heat off, wait for the fumes to clear. I'm going to stir a little bit. And you can see it is not sticking to the bottom of the pot at all. I tend to serve bulgur with basically all meals that don't actively demand rice. It's a really great way to round out a meal of vegetables and roast chicken. I hope you enjoy this bulgur as much as I do. See you next time.